I want to share with you one story. I take a group of people from the United States every year on a visit to Gandhi's India. And here's one person who came with me on the last trip here. But the idea is that we go and see nonviolence in action and how it transforms societies. And in 1999, on one of these trips here, I had a group of young women from Wellesley College with a few of their professors who had come. And since we start off this tour on a very modest kind of way, we travel by train, buses, and dusty roads and villages and all that kind of thing. These women were getting a little upset after 6 days of this kind of hardship. And then on the 7th day we reached the city of Ahmedabad. And there our travel agent was able to get us accommodation in a very wonderful 5-star hotel. And as we stood there in line to get our rooms assigned, all these women were bubbling with enthusiasm. Finally, they saw something that they could relate to. All the comforts and luxuries that they were, always accustomed to. And they were talking about how they were going to have a hot bath and how they were going to finally be able to wash their hair and all that kind of thing. And they were excited tremendously until they went to their rooms. And then they came back running and looking for me, and they said, "Mr. Gandhi, we have to leave this hotel and go from here." I said, "Why? What happened? I mean, you were so enthusiastic and so excited minutes ago. What happened suddenly to change your mind?" And they said, "We looked out of the window of our rooms and we saw all the poverty just below there, and we feel guilty that those people don't have anything at all and we are enjoying all this luxury here." And I said, "Well, we are not going to move from here. This is going to be a lesson for you. And the lesson is that you use and experience the same comforts and the same luxuries back home. But because you don't have a window to the other half of the world, you can block it out and we can enjoy this without feeling guilty. Here you are going to see the other half of the world from the window for all the days that we are going to be here. And let this be a lesson for you that we owe a responsibility to the rest of the world to help them transform their lives and become better so that we don't have the disparities that are existing here." So that's what we need to be conscious about. Today, in the name of nationalism, we are told we must be nationalistic and we must be proud of our nation and we are going to secure our nation and we're going to ensure that we live in safety and nothing is going to ever happen to us. And this is wrong. We can never secure our nation's borders here, and we can never safeguard our nations and let the rest of the world go down the drain. Because if the rest of the world goes down the drain, we are going to go with them. We are all interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. We cannot say that Africa can go to pot or Asia can go to pot and we can live here in comfort and luxury. This is totally wrong, and we buy into that. We must remember that while we are proud of our country, we are also equally proud of the world, and we must create a world where everybody can live in peace and harmony, and not just a few people. And it's only then that we can create an atmosphere where people will not be fighting and killing and destroying each other. So these are some of the aspects of nonviolence that we must be very conscious about and deal with them in our daily life, individually. Also, I want to share with you a couple of stories as I conclude this, to show you how we contribute to perpetuating this culture of violence. That every time we tell our children that we are going to punish you when you misbehave, we are contributing to that culture of violence. We are perpetuating that culture of violence, because the children then grow up to believe that when somebody makes a mistake, they must be punished. Now, in a culture of non-violence, punishment is not the important thing. Penance is what is important there. And I'll demonstrate to you. In 1940, when I was 6 years old, and we were visiting my grandparents in India, and we were living with him in the community that he had started, where he had invited people to come and live a non-violent lifestyle. In that community, there was a young couple who had a 6-year-old boy, and the two of us got on very famously. And this boy had a tremendous sweet tooth. He had to have desserts or candies or sugar, chocolates or whatever. He had to have it all the time, every day. And the result was that he started getting a rash all over his body. And his parents brought him to the doctor, and the doctor said, "You've got to stop giving him sweets until he's cured, and then you've got to monitor how much he eats there." So the parents came home and they told the boy, the doctor said, "No more sweets for you, so you're not going to get any more. Don't argue with us. That's the final decision." And yet they would have sweets on the table and everybody else would be partaking of it. So the boy didn't obey his parents. When nobody was looking, he would grab some and eat it. And the result was that he couldn't be cured. So a few days later, the parents brought this boy to grandfather and pleaded with grandfather to talk to him and explain why he should not eat sweets. And grandfather said, "You come back after 15 days and I will talk to him." And they couldn't understand why they had to wait for 15 days, but they went away and came back after 15 days, and grandfather took this boy aside and spoke to him for less than a minute. And boy went home and gave up sweets, wouldn't touch sweets anymore. And the parents were shocked. They came back to grandfather and asked him, "What kind of a miracle did you perform? That we were trying to tell him the same thing and he wouldn't obey us, and yet you were able to speak to him for less than a minute and he instantly obeys you." And grandfather said it wasn't a miracle. So the reason I asked you to come back after 15 days was I had to give up eating sweets before I could ask him to give up. And all I told him is that I have not eaten sweets for 15 days and I'm not going to eat until you are allowed to eat. So will you please give it up?